Hi, this is Ron Turner of Frontrunner 2020. Welcome to this episode of the Frontrunner 2020 series.
All right, let me give you another tip for your campaign. It is very important to have a room full of people. So how many you think you will have, get a room where it is smaller and will have standing room only. For instance, the last race I managed, we have about 32,000 people in this county, and about 10,000 voted. We had a room that would hold about 175 people, and we had about 325 to show up. Needless to say, there was some excitement, and I had a friendly newspaper person to come by, and we had a raving review stating that overpouring, excited crowd turned out. This was a great big help in the election. Also, there is excitement in the room. Folks that have not donated will donate more freely and give bigger checks. In total for the primary only, we raised about $20,000 now, and we had stiff incumbent challenger in the primary. And keep in mind, we had only about 10,000 in total to vote, so we spent about $5 per vote. And that might want to be a little guide. It's probably between $5 and $8. Another tip, make sure you keep the names of the ones that came to the first fundraiser because you will use them 2 more times. Here's why. Once they have given this money to you the first time, after that it is called owe money. Within 30 days, we will write another letter to everyone that came to the first party and ask them to bring someone possibly that would donate to your campaign again. With them to have another fundraiser, it will bring in some more money for you. You should run an ad in the local newspaper stating that there will be a free bean supper at this rally. Keep in mind, if you put them in a 20-acre field, it will look very small. So use the same ideal about where you go to have it. Now, when they bring someone with them and they donate, this is known as new money to the political people. Then also about 2 weeks before the election day, we will ask them to give you a small donation to help get the mailer out that will win the election for them. And most of the time they will give you a little bit, but not as much as they have in the past. During the campaign, who is the fundraising director, they need to appoint some deputy fundraisers and have them to set up some coffees in each district. And try to get 10 to 20 people there that will help raise $500 to $1,000 in total for each coffee. It should be easy to have 10 coffees in a small election, 1 or 2 counties, which would bring in another about $10,000 to your campaign. You can have supporters to bring something with them at the first fundraiser or at a second fundraiser and auctioneer it off. That'll bring you a little bit of money, but not a lot. However, watch, because you will probably have to have you'll have to have them to claim what they brought to you as an in-kind. It's what it's called, an in-kind contribution, and who brought it and so forth. It is okay for some of the volunteers to have a coffee at their home, but you're better off if it is at someone else's home. Then you pick up more supporters. One of the things that I like for is the good old boys and girls, $10 or $20 donation. You couldn't shake them people off unless you punched one or did something stupid. The donation is a signal that they are with you for sure. Keep in mind that a lot of voters don't really make up their mind until they have checked out the candidate. And those donations will be the last to come in, but you have to ask for them or someone won't get any money, and it will be you. Here's a tip. If someone you know, wealthy with money, and even if you know he's not for you, go see them anyway, because I have seen them give a donation to both candidates. Imagine that. The manager or a candidate should set up also. Here's some more things. You should set up a flow chart for your campaign. Now, after you do your fundraising, you know, part of this is going to be in the management area. But a flow chart, this will tell you when to give your announcement of candidacy. You should map out on the flow chart when everything takes place, such as the phone banking, canvassing, sign setting, and when all radio, newspaper, and TV ads have to be run, and so forth. Fundraising is at a separate time in different types. And don't forget to pick out a good place for the victory party in advance and have the location close to the middle of the area that you're running in. And you have to have reservations for that. If you don't, your opponent might have. Now, let me tell you something about a flow chart. You can make this flow chart by getting 3 or 4 volunteers or family together. Find you a good wall or someplace that you can put up a 3-foot wide by 10-foot long white piece of thick card stock or something to that extent. Then get some Post-it notes, 4 or 5 different colors if you can. And then put the beginning date for your campaign to start and at one end, and at the bottom on the other end put the date that it's ending, which is a few days after the election day, because you should also map out some things to do after the election, like financial reports and so forth. The manager or the candidate should map out when each wave of phone calls that are to be made, at least 3 waves, to get more volunteers and to push your script. Volunteer calling for phone banking, asking them to vote for the candidate, picking up volunteers for contributions, volunteers calling to get out the vote, or we call it GOTV. Also, when the first wave of signs go out, you have to map that, which is the big signs. And they need to be in the best high visibility area in your running area, like junctions or highways and so forth. And you might want to think about a billboard sign if you're unknown. Next, yard sign goes up in volunteers' yards and in different areas, and different ones that's already been to your party. And then put signs out to show momentum and strength. Here's another tip. Toward the end of the campaign, be sure and save some signs for the last of the campaign, in case someone tears up all your signs, or the wind gets them, or they get torn up and scattered. Another tip is you will need to have the sign setter, which you will have to have sign setters doing maintenance on the signs in case they bend over or tear up. Another tip is when setting signs in rural areas especially, make sure they are not on the right-of-way next to the road. Highway departments will pick them up when the grass gets high and they will have to mow. Another tip is don't set them in yards where people have to mow around them. They have to take it up many times. Sooner or later, they will put it back up, and they'll pick it up and they'll just leave it sitting beside of their outbuilding or whatever. Set it next to a flower bed or the edge of a driveway or at the end of the walkway, so they don't have to mow around them. Always set the sign where both ways of the road can see the sign. Don't get small signs for the country because you can't read it from across a large ditch or something. Having larger yard signs makes it appear to be twice as many signs as you have out. They can read them both ways. Another tip, if you have to run in the primary in fall, don't get cardboard signs. They will cost you more money in the long run because they will not hold up. And if you are running in the primary and have a fall race also, take up your signs and get the address where they go back in general elections and tell those people you'll be back to set it back up. Otherwise, they get used to the sign and don't pay attention to it in the fall election. Also, you can refurbish the sign and clean it off and get it ready if you have a place to house them. Also, if it is up at a long time, your opponent will target the House voter. So kind of watch about your signs. Now, Let me make another important suggestion to you when setting signs. Make sure your opponent's home area is the last place you work. Do not set signs in the area unless you for sure that you have a good chance of winning that area, which I really doubt. But everyone who does your area analysis should be able to tell you what your chances are, but I believe they will be slim. When you're setting signs in Andy's hometown of Mayberry, Ron, you will want to make you will probably make Barney and Aunt Bee and Floyd and Gomer and all of his friends get worried. This fires them up, and it will cost you votes. Not only will they call in Mayberry, they will call every friend they have in Mount Pilot. So how many people could you see in Mayberry while politicking before they would call and tell Andy? Working your opponent's home area should be like flying a stealth plane. You better make it hard for them to see you working in that area. Like I said earlier, it will bring out his troops. You can get someone to work slowly in his hometown better than you can. Now, unless it is a large town and you have to have portions of this, if he lives in a small area out in the country and there's a lot of area left, sometimes just don't fool with it. You're better off if you wait till very last, creep in there and get what you can get and get out. As I said, you know, Andy knows what's going on in his hometown. You can bet on that.